Hello, Chargers. My name's Tammy. I'm a peer career advisor with the Career Development Center, and today I'll be doing an interviewing workshop for you guys. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us, the Career Development Center, or email me specifically. I'll put my email up on this recording, that way you can see it, and hope you have a great day. So without further ado, we will begin to share our screen. So before we start, I just want you guys to know that every interview is completely unique, that no two are the same. None of them will be exactly the same. Even if you're going for the same position at two different companies, they won't be at all alike. Make sure to review your company and position ahead of time. And finally, just be yourself. It helps you relax, it helps you ease into it, and it just makes it a lot more genuine. To prepare for an interview, some things you might want to do is to identify your skills. So one thing you can do is definitely use the position description. It's going to look something like this as a guide to what you want to try and identify, because that's exactly what they're looking for. So for example, I'm a political science student, and so this might be a job that I'm looking for. So I am a current college student. These are some things: energetic, research-focused, possess excellent verbal and written communication skills. If I have these traits, I might want to make sure that I talk about it in the interview, make sure that I bring them up. That way they see that I'm exactly what they're looking for. Something else you might want to look at too is like work hours, what they might be looking for. Make sure you have transportation, especially if they ask for it. And then if I don't have experience in WordPress copywriting or content creation, maybe I'll make myself a little more familiar with them before I apply. That way I can make sure I am the perfect candidate for them. So then there are the competencies. So if you've ever had a seminar with us before, you might have seen these. They're pretty common. So every year we talk to NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and they give us these same 6 qualities that they're looking for in new employees. So one of them is leadership. If you've ever run a team or done an event and you've been the head, that's a great thing to point out. Communication, making sure that you're messaging, keeping track with available information and nonverbal things as well. Making sure that you are showing that you are listening is also a huge part of communication. Resilience, if you've ever been on a team or if there's ever been obstacles in your way to completing a goal, that's huge. Again, teamwork kind of goes back to resilience and communication, making sure that you're able to work within a team, because most likely you will not be working on your own. Global and cultural awareness is a huge one now, especially with what we're going through. Globalizing worlds, we're going to be coming in contact with people who aren't not only from America, but aren't from the Northeast. And so their culture is vastly different. Critical thinking, this is just learning, problem solving, being able to make good decisions quickly but effectively. These 6 things are all huge that you might want to make sure you work into your resume, or make sure that you definitely bring up during your interview. So company research is always a good thing to do. So you must be familiar with its products and services. Every single company has a product or service. If you don't know, feel free to call us and we can help you out with it. But they will all have products and services. This just makes sure that you know what the company is about and what it does. Another great thing to look at is its size. Is it a startup? Is it multi-building? Is it international? Make sure you know the size before you go in. It might just help you better understand the company. Mission statement. Every company has one. It's really what they want to do. So mission statements are great for if you want to have a better, deeper understanding, or if you want to look like you have researched the company, which you should have. Mission statements are huge. They can be on the About page. Also on the About page probably will be recent news. So this shows you the most recent things the company has done. It'll help you kind of get your foot in the door, talk about those things. It's a really easy way to maybe know about some services or products, and it makes you more familiar. Also, the last thing is salaries for your job title. Generally, if you're looking for internships, it's going to be unpaid, but sometimes it is paid. But also, if you're going into the workforce after you graduate, know your salary before you go in, because there might be a question that they ask you. Okay, so next we're doing types of interviews. The first type is the behavioral interview, and we like to say to use the STAR technique. The reason that I do a lot of behavioral interviews is because past behavior is the best predictor for future behavior. I'm sure a parent or a grandparent or a teacher has said this to you before. The STAR technique is situation and task. So talk about a situation you were in. Next would be action. What did you do in order to create a way out of the situation or finish the task? And then the results are what happened. This is your basic storytelling model. This is going to happen a lot with many of your employers' interviews. Next would be an unstructured interview. So this is a lot more conversational, a lot more informal. They do most of the talking, and they might give you a question from time to time. Make sure that you find time to talk about your own skills and kind of input. They might be testing your communication skills during this kind of interview. Just make sure that you don't get lost is the big takeaway from this interview. Next is a phone interview. This is happening more and more often with, like I said, the more globalizing world, but also just coming into, moving and doing different country stuff. Sometimes if it's a large company, they might do phone interviews before they do in-person interviews. So make sure that you know the process before you start. Make sure to still treat it like it's an on-site interview, like a lot of us do now with Zoom. You can make sure you dress the part, you prepare your surroundings so it's quiet, make sure to smile. Even if you're on the phone, smiling, it can help and kind of show through your tone of voice. If you've sent in any resumes or cover letters, make sure to have them in front of you, maybe the position description as well. That way if they reference something, you know exactly what they're talking about. Make sure to practice as always. So you can call your mom, your friend, your roommate, whoever, and practice to make sure you don't sound weird. And finally, make sure to follow up, which I will go over at the end. So virtual Skype interviewing, again, it's going to be very similar to the phone interview. Make sure you have good lighting. Make sure your computer doesn't need an update or you don't have to re-download something, and treat it like it's an in-person interview. Make sure you dress business formal. Make sure you don't have any little ones running around in the background. Make sure to keep it professional. Again, practice, reach as a company, follow up. So some sample interview questions we have are pretty typical. Most of people can guess them. Tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Strengths, weaknesses, success, failures. These are all very common. These are the ones that you're going to get in and out. It's going to be very, very easy for you to use. So next comes questions that are a little more uncomfortable and that people are really not supposed to ask you at all. Oops, sorry. Are you expecting a child, or how many children do you have? Are you married? Your sexual orientation? Were you born in America? What is your religion? What is your political orientation? These are questions that will make you uncomfortable. And the reason they're considered illegal questions is because they could lead to discrimination on the employer's part. Not on yours, but on the employer's part. So they're really not supposed to ask these questions. However, sometimes it does happen. So we also go over ways to answer these questions. The first one is you can just straight up answer the question if you feel comfortable doing that. Just know that it could lead to discrimination. What I always say is if they're going to discriminate against me for any of those questions, then I don't know that I would like to work for them. But also just make sure that you're prepared. You can also examine the intent. For example, if you're wearing a cross, or if they have children of their own, they might just be trying to build a relationship and make you a little more comfortable with the topic that you're discussing. So it's not always something that is discriminatory. It might just be them trying to create a personal connection. So just make sure you examine why they're asking that question. You can also refuse to answer the question and say, I prefer not to answer, or I don't feel comfortable. That is completely okay, completely normal. Don't feel bad for using that out if you have to. I have used it before. Just kind of try and get off of the question and move on to another one. So here's some questions that you shouldn't ask your employer when you're at the interview. What does this company do? What are the salaries? What are the benefits? These are things that you should know before you kind of go into it. Maybe not the benefits, but definitely the salary and what the company does. You should know this before you go in. If I get the job, when can I take time off? Can I change my schedule if I get the job? These two are more like, they come off as arrogant, but also time off and changing your schedule should not be the first two things you're worried about when you get a position. It may seem that, you're kind of a lackadaisical person, that you're not really interested in the position, that you're just kind of using this to have a job. And then finally, did I get the job? This used to be a very popular question because people believe that it showed confidence, but now it's just turned into something, once again, it's very arrogant and people don't particularly like it. It's not very good for you, so just don't ask that question. Some questions that you might want to ask are, how would you describe the ideal candidate? What are the key challenges? The company's highest priority goals this year, and how would my role contribute? These are all huge for what you could do. They're great questions. They show that you're interested in the company. They show that you're interested in helping the company advance, making sure that you are going to try and do the best job you can for this company. These are great questions to ask. We have more in a link at the end of the presentation, which I can show you, or if you want to email us, we can send you the link. They're great, awesome, awesome questions. So finally, some tips for practicing. As I said, we have some typical questions. If you want, you can write down the responses to those questions and kind of practice them. That way, you kind of know them and kind of move forward. Review the question and answers until you're comfortable. Make sure it doesn't sound robotic, but you know the highlight points. It's almost like an elevator pitch. You know the highlight points. You don't need to memorize the whole thing. Doing mock interviews also is very helpful. Like I said, do it with your mom, your friend. If you want, you can do it with us on Big. You can do it with a career development center. If your class offers it, take them. Kind of make sure that you get comfortable in front of other people. And it also gives you great feedback. So for example, I know you can't tell, but I talk with my hands quite often. And sometimes people tell me that it's a bit distracting and difficult to focus on my answers. So that was feedback that I needed. So feedback is a huge part of doing the mock interviews. That way you are the best candidate while interviewing. So on the interview day itself, you might want to write out the responses again, just to make sure you're comfortable. Wear the professional attire, which I'll go over, and bring a pad folio or just any notebook, piece of paper. Make sure to bring multiples of your resumes in case somebody else ends up coming in, or if they lost it, you can give it to them. Just having an extra copy will never hurt. And make sure you bring a pen and paper that we can write some stuff down. And finally, this is major, know the route to your interview. If you want to drive there a couple days before during the same time that you would be driving there for the interview, that's huge help. It tells you traffic patterns, how early you have to leave, that way you're not late. It's a great way to get things done. Okay, so after the interview follow-up, this one is big as well. Make sure you obtain business cards for everyone in the meeting. Now, the reason for this is you're going to want to write them a thank you note with details from your interview. This just make sure that you know their title, their office number, their name. So that way when you send them the card, it actually gets to them and doesn't just end up in the trash. Make sure that, when you write these notes, use details from your actual interview. They don't have to be like, I was great at leadership and communication. It can be just something that you had. For example, I was interviewed by a woman whose last name was McHale, and I used to love the movie McHale's Navy when I was young. And I pointed this out to her, and she's like, I love that movie too. So you made that kind of connection. I use that in my thank you note. It doesn't always have to be that you were an amazing candidate for the position. If there is more than one, for example, if you get interviewed by a panel or 2 or 3 people, make sure you send separate thank you notes to each of them that are all unique. This can be super helpful. After you're done with your interview, get to a quiet place and write down details of the interview. That way, if you're going to send the thank you notes 2 or 3 days later, it's fresh in your mind from when you were there. And then finally, know when you should hear back results. This one's huge as well. Especially if you're interviewing for a large company, it might be weeks before you hear back about the job. So make sure you know when you'll hear back. That way, you're not going to bother them, or you're not having unnecessary anxiety when you're trying to do it. These are all super helpful things to kind of go through. So for interviewing attire, do jewelry in moderation, not a lot of bling, not huge statement pieces. Conservative 2-piece suit is always great. You can wear a skirt and a blazer, or a blazer and pants. Anything is fine. Make sure if you are going to wear a skirt that it's knee length. Hosiery should be near skin color. It shouldn't be black, shouldn't have colors or patterns on it. And dark shoes, that way they don't distract. You want the most important thing to stand out to be you, not your outfit. Some don'ts: distracting necklaces, bright colors or patterns, capris are too casual, and open-toed shoes. It's just considered, these things are considered too casual. This is what you might wear to, a gathering or friends. It's not really an appropriate corporate attire. For men, no earrings generally, silk necktie with conservative pattern. That doesn't have to be silk, but just make sure that it's muted. Again, no patterns, none of that. Shirt cuffs show only slightly. They shouldn't be 3 to 4 inches too long. Make sure that they only show slightly. consider it a two-piece suit. Again, blazer, blazer pants, maybe a nice shirt with a collar, and then, sorry, you can't see that, but dark shoes. Again, make sure that they're muted, no colorful socks. I know people like to do that, but avoid it. Facial hair should be neat and trim. If you want to keep your beard, then feel free, but make sure it's not scraggly or, kind of everywhere. Make sure that it looks neat, it looks nice. Avoid distracting patterns. Again, no rolled up pants. Once again, way too casual for a work environment. And wear socks generally is a good idea. If you forget to wear socks, might seem a little bit icky. So just be careful with that. Those are things to kind of remember for your interview. Here are some sources that you can feel free to use. Do you have one more? No, okay. So the University of New Haven Creative Development Center, you can help us. You can find us through email or call us. You can also use MyCharger, where we have all of our links kind of set up. Feel free to come in and talk with us, or join into one of our virtual office hours and come speak to us about stuff. If you have any questions, we can help you practice. There's also something called Big Interview, which is a mock interview online. It's very helpful. Highly recommend using it. You can do it from your home. It's huge. Again, Charger link, anything in there, please use. You can help find jobs. You can see when we have certain workshops running. Feel free to look at that. Sample interview questions. Again, these are the questions that you might they might ask you, or you might want to ask. What to wear. Again, this is just how to dress for an interview. Salary calculator and salary research might help you find out the salary for your particular position. If you have anything else, please feel free to ask us, contact us online, figure it out, and we can help you. And finally, thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your attention this whole time. I hope this was helpful. Again, contact us if you have any other questions that you would like to ask us. Make sure that, you can speak with us at any time. We are super excited to have students still engaging with us, especially now. We hope to hear from you. We hope you're doing well. And hopefully I'll see you in virtual office hours. Have a great day, Chargers.